Already in the few words of the story, it's made clear that the narrator is not fully sane. He speaks of a disease he has that has given him some sort of superhuman powers. With these powers, he's able to hear everything in heaven and hell, and on the whole planet. Besides telling the reader about his illness, he ensures them that he's not mad and that the disease is harmless. He uses these superpowers to convince the reader and himself that he's not mad. He tries to persuade the reader to believe him by telling the story wholeheartedly and healthily. The narrator's definition of madness is the complete opposite of his own character. It's a senseless person, tactless, stupid, and sloppy. In paragraph 1, sentence 1 and 2, he says, "But why would you say that I'm mad?" Paragraph 3, sentence 14, "Now this is the point you fancy me mad." Paragraph 10, sentence 55, "And I have not told you that what you mistake for madness is but over-acuteness of the sense." Paragraph 12, sentence 84 and 85, "If you still think me mad, you think no longer when I describe the wise precautions I took for the concealment of the body."
Considering the fact that he has come up with an excuse for not being mad, the reader is not supposed to agree that he's not mad. It's supposed to make the reader ponder whether the protagonist is mad or not. There is a boundary between the narrator's understanding of himself and the reader's, and furthermore the word madness. The protagonist's name, sex and age is unknown. The protagonist's social standing is that he serves the upper middle class. The protagonist's psychological state is that he's kind of a loner or antisocial. Throughout the story, he never introduces any friends.
The story takes place in what we expect to be a relatively large house in the city, judging from the details about the size of the house with the same quote as earlier. Quote, "I took my visitors all over the house. I bade them search well. I led them at length to his chamber. I showed them his treasures, secure, undisturbed." These descriptions leading to the feeling that the story takes place in a big house. Furthermore, we perceive that he is the one who owns the house, but the old man does.
The story takes place during 8 to 9 days in 1941 in an old man's house. The narrator is the housekeeper. He spent 8 nights waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike, which makes it perfectly clear that the storyline has to be 8 days or longer. Considering the fact that the neighbors reported the shriek to the police the same night of the murder, the storyline has to be between 8 or 9 days. Lastly, the house seems to be in an old shape, even in 1941. Quote, "I then took up 3 planks from the flooring of the chamber and deposited it all between the scantlings." Quote end.
In fiction, you create suspense by withholding information, and the best type of information to withhold is often the backstory. As an author, you can create suspense in 3 main ways. By withholding information from the reader, some of the information is held back maybe up to the very end, even when the author knows the entire story behind the plot. By withholding information from the main characters. By reading between the lines and applying common sense and experience, the readers can draw conclusions about what's likely to be happening next in the story. By having characters withhold information from the readers and from one another. Just because a character knows something, it doesn't mean he has to share it. A mood is a feeling that is conveyed to the reader in a literary work. The writers create a mood through choice of words, dialogue, sensory details, description and plot complications. It can be a lot of feelings. An example could be mysterious, dreamy, reckless, humorous, sad, intense, calm, and so on.
The definition of anaphora. Anaphora is a word or a phrase used in the beginning or end of a sentence or clause. It is used to create emphasis and balance in the text or sentences. Anaphora is used often in this text and contributes to the understanding of the narrator's almost psychotic mind. Here is a few examples of anaphora in the text. Paragraph 2, sentence 2. Object, there was none. Passion, there was none. Paragraph 3, sentence 2 to 3. With what caution, with what foresight, with what dissimulation I went to work. Paragraph 17, sentence 4 to 7. I talked more quickly, more vehemently, but the noise steadily increased. I arose and argued about trifles, in a high key and with violent gesticulations, but the noise steadily increased. I paced the floor to and fro with heavy strides, as if excited by the fury, by the observations of the men, but the noise steadily increased. Personification is used when one assigns the attributes of a human to that of a non-human. This way, the non-human being or object's qualities and symbolic meanings blends in with the human attribute and creates a whole new symbolic meaning. This is seen in the text too, but not as often as anaphora. In paragraph 7, sentence 11 to 12. All in vain, because death, in approaching him, had stalked with his black shadow before him and enveloped the victim. A simile is a figure of speech in which one thing is compared to another of a different category, as in, she is like a sunny day, or he is as cunning as a fox. This too is seen in the story. In paragraph 8, sentence 3, like the thread of a spider. Paragraph 10, sentence 2, I say, there may come to my ears a low, dull, quick sound, such as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. When using irony, one uses a word or phrase with the opposite literal meaning than to what is intended. This increases the understanding of detachment from the subject and is able to show how the speaker feels about the subject. It is also usable in covering up real intentions, meanings, and opinions. This too is seen in the text, but not very often. In paragraph 3, sentence 15 to 16. So you see, he would have been a very profound old man, indeed, to suspect that every night, just at 12, I looked upon him while he slept.
The possible themes of the story could be crime, murder, or madness.